Welcome back to another episode of EV Obsession. I'm your co-host, Joe Boris, here with Clean Technica co-CEO, Zachary Shahan. This is going to be a smooth episode, kicking off with the global EV sales reports. How you doing, baby?
Oh yeah. So we're gonna fly through a few EV sales reports because we've covered them now already, and they're sort of the same month to month in different markets. But worth highlighting and reminding what's going on. So the world one is obviously, as well, it's my most favorite. I don't know if it's obvious if it's everyone's, but for me, I love seeing the world report. Just sort of you get to see how these different markets work together. As we noted last time, China accounts for 60% of world plug-in vehicle sales. So
Bonkers.
it heavily influences the world sales report. And the story here remains the same. Tesla Model Y in September was by far the leading plug-in vehicle sold. 121,000 in 1 month. That's wild.
That's so many, dude.
And then you've got 5 BYDs in a row after that. The Model 3 is 8th on the list. You've got 8 out of the 10 top 10 vehicles are Tesla or BYD. The other 2 are GAC.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, I don't think I could tell you what that vehicle was. The Ion.
Yeah, I have to.
I have to go look it up.
I edit these reports every month, but it's been so long since I actually looked at what it is. I forget what it looks like. Yeah, but just basically a couple of Tesla models and a bunch of Chinese models. I guess for me the most interesting is to sort of look at the non-China and Tesla models on the list, just because that's the only thing that really I
You
don't
might
know.
be familiar with.
Yeah,
But look at this
says,
Audi Q4 e-tron, 77,000 unit sales last month. I feel like that's a ton.
I moved charts. This is the first 9 months chart.
I missed that. Yeah, I was like, that's a
It's like,
crazy
whoa,
amount. They
dude,
really
how did that happen? It did
they're
not.
having a 60% off blue light special in aisle 7 on
Yeah.
Audi Q4 e-trons. I was like, whoa.
But it is noteworthy, the ID4 is number 11, ID3 is number 16, the e-tron, Q4 e-tron is number 20. So Volkswagen Group, it's not holding its own, I guess we can't say that, but it is performing the best of the legacy automakers.
Yes.
That's it for the world. Moving on. So you got the UK market, 25% plug-in vehicles now, 15 to 16% full electrics. BYD led the charge in October.
BYD or BMW?
I'm sorry, BMW. Gosh, you see, I'm just not even. I can't even read correctly anymore. BYD has infiltrated my mind. BMW, yeah, BMW. That's a surprise, no?
I mean, they have the new products, right? And I think this is where we're going to start to see in the next coming months. I think really the next 6 months to a year, we're going to start to see the established nature of Tesla's EVs start to come around and bite them in the rear. People do like to have new stuff, especially premium car buyers in that BMW, Audi, Tesla, Mercedes-Benz arena. BMW and Audi are coming out with new electrified products all the time. They're coming out with really good electrified products. Frankly, they're doing a ton of advertising and marketing, trying to get people out there. And the fact that these are new vehicles that, people turn their head, ooh, look, it's the new BMW, it's the new Mercedes. That's something that can't really be said of Tesla. Even the Highland, even the Juniper, or whatever they're going to call the other one when that comes out, I don't think it's going to have that same eye-catching sort of like, this is a new vehicle, this is the new version, it's time to step up and buy the new one that the BMWs and Audis are going to have. So I think we're going to start to see that. This may be the first month that somebody beats Tesla in the UK, or at least the first month in a while, but I think we're going to start to see that as a more regular thing, as, to use your favorite term, as the Tesla sales reach their natural limits and these other car companies come in and start taking some EV sales away from Tesla. I think this is just kind of how it's going to be. I don't expect them to lose their spot. I don't think they're going to be, I expect them to lose their number one spot to BYD relatively soon, but I don't expect them to be regularly behind BMW, Audi, and Mercedes for some years to come. But I think it's starting.
Yeah, the natural limits phrase is Jose Pontes. Don't want to steal it, but I love it. And then, yeah, I mean, when is the last time you saw BMW on top of Tesla anywhere? And
Yeah.
let's not get dirty, but let's see. Germany, we got a similar situation.
Yeah.
24.5% BEV market share. It's almost exactly the same as UK. 24.9% was UK. And BEVs are 17%. So slightly above the 15.6% in the UK, but you're sort of neck and neck, and these are two of the biggest auto markets in Europe. So really, really interesting evolution there as well. And that's where we get the Enyaq attack. The Skoda Enyaq was #1 last month.
That's the graphic. Enyaq attack with the
yeah,
Q
I think
instead
that's
of the
what's the
CK.
title. Oh, Enyaq comeback. Oh, sorry, yes, had the wrong rhyme in my head. But Enyaq attack, Enyaq comeback. The Enyaq is on top. Above that Q4 e-tron that sold 1 million vehicles last month. Just gonna make this get it
77
by the end of this episode. 1 billion Q4 e-trons sold in September. No, October.
Right. In the first 3 weeks, in the first 3 days of November, they sold 750,000 examples.
Yeah. So and then you've got these small EVs, which we'll get back to that topic soon. And Tesla way down there at 5th and 6th in October. But this is supposed to be, well, I don't know. I don't know what the situation is right now with
But isn't that funny
this is
that
a
like
weak month for Tesla in Germany because they're shipping cars in October to other places, and they're delivering from Germany to Germany at the end of the quarter.
But isn't that funny how we've gotten so used to seeing Tesla at the top that when they're not at the top, it's just kind of like, oh, that's weird. There must be some other factor. It can't possibly be that the market is moving away from them. It must be some other weird thing because there's infinite demand for Teslas, don't you know?
Or there's not, and that's why we have this news, which is that Tesla is planning to build a 25,000 euro car in the German Gigafactory.
Stop.
Yeah, that's what they say. Elon said it.
Again?
When have you ever doubted Elon, Joe?
When have I ever doubted Elon? I mean, yeah, here's the thing, right? This is a
good Steve Hanley subheading here.
Die casting ain't for sissies for sure. You know, I think this is great. I think the European market and the Asian markets are going to be very open to a small, compact, what I would call like a strippy kind of hatchback deal that they could make for a lower price. I think, even with a lower range, I think absolutely. I think it's you need to keep in mind this is not something that's going to necessarily be popular in North America. We have a long sordid history of not ever having a inexpensive compact car as our #1 bestseller here in this country. It's always been a middle of the road kind of vehicle, whether, even if you take out pickup trucks, it's always been like an Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme or a Ford Taurus or a Toyota Camry. It's always been something mid-size. It's never been a compact. It's never been anything, based on efficiency and low price. So I think that this idea that by lowering the price, you're going to increase the sales volume, it is not borne out by reality. It sounds good. It sounds like a really nice clip. Like, oh yeah, if they were more affordable, more people would buy them. I don't think that's the case.
Well, it's really funny because originally there was talk of this being produced in China and Mexico.
Yeah,
I imagine China's still on the boards. Mexico got delayed, and they're like, well, we could build it in the Texas Gigafactory. But there's not that market, as you're saying, in North America. And that's where Tesla sells vehicles on that side of the Atlantic. I mean, potentially the thought was, oh, they could start selling a lot of vehicles in Central and South America. But those would be new markets for it. And if you look at Germany is the largest auto market in Europe. And if you look at this list of top sellers, it's full of small vehicles. It's just full of them.
Yeah.
The i3 sold really well there for ages, for years, for like a decade. And and then the UK is maybe the second biggest market in Europe. I don't remember, but again, they sell a lot of smaller cars. All these markets in Europe, France, the other big market, it's just they buy small cars. They love small cars. They have small streets, tiny parking spaces, and it just makes sense that they would start building this in Germany and sell it in Europe, and it will probably be extremely popular. There might be an issue with Tesla Osborning the Model 3 and the Model Y there. I mean, I don't think they're going to sell. I don't think they will ever sell the same levels of the Y and the 3 if this affordable Tesla comes out in Europe.
Yeah, how much of that is actually meeting needs and how much of that is marketing and the idea of Tesla being a tech forward premium brand, and how much of that would be undermined by having what would at 25,000 euro effectively be one of the least expensive new vehicles you can buy.
Yeah, I mean, there's a handful of smaller vehicles there, but that's the point. I mean, there's a big market for them. But
yeah, exactly.
The other competitive, attractive small SUV that is hot on our horizon is $35,000, so not quite as cheap. Volvo EX90, which Kyle
EX30, 30.
Sorry, EX30. So we just got all kinds of flubs today. Typos from the mouth.
Typo of the mouth. I love that.
Typo of the mouth. So Kyle Field got to go to Barcelona and hobnob around the beautiful scenery there in a EX30 with other auto journalists, and has a just raving review. Mind you, he was a Model 3 owner. He is a Model Y owner. He also owned a Nissan Leaf and a Mercedes B-Class electric. But it's his wife's car. She loves it. But
wow.
Yeah.
But I mean, it does go to show that he has a wide breadth of EV experience and knowledge and know-how.
And years with Tesla, I didn't see one negative comment from him on this. He loves it, as far as I could tell.
Yeah, it's a solidly well-built vehicle. They take a lot of the lessons that they've learned from the Geely Group, a lot of those economies of scale, from Geely and Lynk & Co. and all that, and they're putting this together, and it is a true Volvo in the sense that, like, it's got the styling, it's got the little Swedish Easter eggs. It's supposedly, from everything I've read, it's solid as a tank, and it has that Volvo feel. I think there are a number of interior options. If you are in an XC90 or an S90 today, you'll probably find that the plastics and the cloth and things like that are not necessarily up to the standards you might be used to. But you can option this thing all the way up to like almost 60 grand with all the bells and whistles and everything you can throw at it. So this is really going to be a great canvas for people to buy one of these, especially urban commuters, people who drive a lot for work. This is going to be a great vehicle for them. And it's also worth noting that this is not only going to be Volvo's least expensive EV, it's also going to be their fastest accelerating vehicle ever. So if you have an S60 Polestar, if you have one of those Volvo 850 T5Rs, this is going to beat you in that quarter mile. And again, there's some stuff in there you can see right there, that like Fleck plastic stuff. This is another great example of a fun Easter egg that the Swedes like to put in there. But it also highlights the fact that this is a lot of plastic. It's not so much wood. It's not a lot of leather. It's not that real heavy wool that you're used to seeing from some of the higher end Volvos. This is a affordable entry level vehicle that's going to have mass appeal. And I think people are going to buy the snot out of these things, man.
I think they're going to buy it for the Moose.
The Moose is great.
Clincher. Be like,
well, do you know what the Moose is about?
The sustainability? No.
Well, so, okay, it's fun and sustainability, but it's also a very subtle jab at Tesla. So in Europe, they have, as part of their safety testing, they have what's called the Moose avoidance test. And this is at high speed. It's like 50 miles an hour. They do a rapid swerve as if they were avoiding an animal that came out onto the road. Now, every Volvo keeps all four wheels planted as it goes through the Moose test. I've actually sent you these videos on TikTok and things like that. I assume you just ignore me. But if you look at the Model Y and the Model X,
I
they
did
lift
I
a
did
wheel, and the
forget to
Model X almost flips it.
did forget to open a couple of TikToks, but it's not
Yeah,
that I wasn't going to. It's just I got them like on the road and I was like, oh, I'll have to open that later.
yeah,
Also, like I'm scared of what you sent me on TikTok. Like, you
you
know,
should be.
you, it's like you could send some scary stuff from TikTok,
I think that's
and you're
fair.
not the only one.
No,
I try to stay off
no, but
TikTok.
my stuff,
It
my
scares
stuff is
me.
the
Everything
kind of
about it
thing that,
scares
like,
me.
yeah, it scares you later, where you're just like, that's weird, and then 3 days later, you're still thinking about it. Like, why did he send me that?
I've got get that picture of the guy like staring into space, like beady eyes, like oh. Yeah,
Exactly.
no, I love honestly, I love the music. I love the cute thing about it. If that's a nod to the safety testing, that's awesome. I love, I've talked about it before. I love minimalist interiors. I love this interior. Like I really love it. I
Yeah,
not the necessarily the plastics part. Like it would be great if that dash was Alcantara or something. But I just love how clean and minimalist it is. Even like the little cup holders there, they're just like, oh, it's just perfect. Like I love it. I don't know.
yeah.
I love that kind of clean look. And
And the cup holder is retractable, by the way. You can see in this picture.
yes, so you can make it even, yeah, more clean and empty. I love it.
Exactly.
And then
Exactly right.
the way the tablet is like worked in there, I love that. It's just like a simple little like, it's just placed in.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think they've done a brilliant job with this. But with what
This is going to be,
with regard to what
yeah,
you're saying, like I said, he's got a Model Y and had a
yeah,
Model 3, and he's raving about how fast and fun this vehicle is. And then also in the article talking about you'd think it's going to pull apart on some of these, turns and some of these trickier roads, and it just stays compact. It just feels really good. So like you said, solid as a tank. Like it seems like an amazing feat of engineering and design that Volvo has done here, and I expect it could be a very popular vehicle.
it's going to be real popular. One thing I want to draw attention to while we're on that screen that you just went away from is this is going to be the first
Wait, what, this
vehicle
screen?
on. Yes.
Wait, this one?
Oh my God. So good. I love that you're showing the kind of abuse I have to deal with all the time in a
Yeah.
video public record.
Yeah.
When the lawsuits start flying, can you give me an example of a hostile work environment? Just watch the episode, man. Like he's doing the thing right now.
This does not
Anyway,
happen off camera. Let's be honest.
this is just pure on camera abuse.
It's only to the public.
Exactly. So this is the first vehicle that is using Google OS as its operating system.
Oh, that's
So
why it
you'll
looks so
notice
good.
there, that's the dashboard, that is the heated seats, that is the climate control. It is all running through Google's, through the new Google Auto operating system. All the new Volvos are going to be like this. You'll remember Volvo is really a pioneer when it comes to this infotainment stuff. They were the first cars, along with Ferrari, to launch Apple CarPlay way back. And they are going to be the first vehicles to have this. And I think it's going to be really interesting. And I'm curious to see if you will be able to use CarPlay on this. That's going to be a big deal to a lot of Volvo owners. And I think, with GM has already said that their new EVs starting in 2025 will not be compatible with either Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out, because I am starting to think, and I'm starting to have this conversation with a lot of normals out there who are not car enthusiasts, who are not EV people, that when they are buying new cars, they're not really buying a new car. They're buying CarPlay, and there's a new car attached to it.
Yeah,
So
that's
it's
interesting.
going to be interesting to see how this goes.
Well, yeah, I'm curious now that you say that, and how many times I've seen people commenting, but it doesn't have CarPlay on Apple
Yeah,
Android
that's
Auto.
an issue. That's a real
Then I
thing.
experienced them. I was like, you want this? Like, this is bad. I don't like it at all. But this, I love this. This looks really good to me. I think this looks, to just on the surface without experiencing it, to me, it looks much better than the Tesla screen that I have, which has gotten quite convoluted. It used to be better, and it's gotten worse. I think that's a
Feature creep.
pretty close to universal opinion after the most recent major update. I can't get my eyes off of the Bluetooth thing being pink, which It actually matches my shirt, which is like more of a peach, but I think it's pink. But but this, I don't know why. It's just like, whoa, why is that pink? And I was like staring at it, but I really like it. Even that, the pink Bluetooth. It's probably not in real life pink, but
It's
yeah,
blue.
that's. But it's just very clean look. The map, you know, it's what people are familiar with as well. Like I think this is something that is probably more important and even more subtle than we realize. Like we use the Google stuff on our phones and our computers all the time, and when you look at this, it just looks right. It just
Yeah.
looks nice and right. That's because I mean, well, partly because we're used to it, and partly because Google does a really good job with it. I should note for that kind of that kind of map with the topography. I mean, with the like a real view of what's on the ground. You have to pay $10 a month to Tesla. That's a premium feature with live traffic and the houses and grass and stuff.
Man, we need to
So
do an entire episode
Volvo.
about how sick and wrong this subscription nonsense is, but that's a different conversation.
Well, that's it. I think that's anything to say on the powertrain here. We got a nice picture of that.
Yeah, it's really quite good, quite efficient, quite compact. It's a little bit of a departure from what they have been doing in the past with like the Polestar 2 and the Spock block, which ran it down the center as sort of a backbone frame. This is more of a conventional skateboard, again, sort of betraying that Geely influence. But I mean, you can see there it's got some good suspension tuning happening in the front and rear, and it's a nice setup.
As a Tesla fan would say, they finally got it right. They finally copied Tesla on the skateboard design. Yeah, it just looks really good. That's and oh, there was one. I knew there was one more thing. There was something here. They said demand for the EX30 has been so strong that Volvo announced plans to ramp up a second production facility even before the first deliveries are out the door.
Yep.
So I think that's a big note. We have one more Volvo story here. All those Volvo trucks, which is not Volvo cars anymore. Different owners.
Yeah, this is interesting. So this is, Loblaw Canada. It's the biggest grocery chain in Canada, and they made a lot of news because they had a huge commitment to convert all of their electric, or rather all of their semi-truck fleets eventually to zero emission by 2030. They made that commitment back in like 2017, 2018. And at the same time, they placed an order for 25 Volvo semis again in 2017. Obviously, they don't have any of those semis yet, but they just received their first two of the second generation Volvo VNR day cabs, and they're putting these into service. They've got a high speed charger there, and these are going to be running throughout Montreal. And this is going to be kind of the first step of their broader electrification plans. And yeah, we wish them all the luck in the world, right? I mean, that's what we need. We need especially these big vehicles that are going to be idling where people are, interacting and playing in these densely populated areas around school kids and elderly. We don't want respiratory issues. We don't want those big diesel particulate matter in the air. This is what we want. And so it's good to see it happen. Good to see it, coming to be. And I think if these things can do the job, and they're by every indication they can, we'll start to see these orders kind of become more commonplace. We touched on this in the last episode that Freightliner is now delivering Class 5 and Class 8 trucks, the e-Cascadias. We've got PACCAR Kenworth that is now delivering vehicles and has been delivering vehicles for over a year. We've got a lot of electric vehicles, Mack trucks. There's an electric Mack LR waste management vehicle here in Chicago. We've got a lot of these vehicles out there that are full electric, that are putting in the miles, that are doing the job. And every delay from the competitors, whether you're this doesn't have to be about Tesla. You can make it about Nikola if you want to. Every time somebody else doesn't show up with a truck, it's going to make it that much harder for them to gain whatever traction they originally had from being first to market, or rather first to collect sales orders, right?
Yeah, initially I didn't really have any comments to add, but one thing that comes to mind is it reminds me of the phase with electric buses, where it's like you just have these small trials, pilot projects, small orders like here and there, and you're like, well, come on, just jump in, and but they need to test, they need to sort of slowly evolve and transition. And I just look forward to the time a few years down the road when these orders are big orders and we're just seeing announcements every day instead of every month or whatever.
Yeah.
So, but it's great progress. And yeah, of course, I mean, just note every time it's Volvo or Mac or someone instead of one of the newbies. This is a fun graphic.
This is a big deal, man. So this is not a
We could have
pure
led. I
should have led with this. This is the
could have
biggest
led.
story in the automotive world right now, because as Ford and Chevrolet and even Tesla are running to market with their, full electric vehicles, Stellantis and Ram kind of came out with this RamCharger. This is I don't want to call it a plug-in hybrid because that's really not what this is. This is a range extended EV. The engine does not have a transmission. The internal combustion engine at no point ever drives the wheels. This is a fully electric driven vehicle that has a V6 range extender that just cranks and cranks and cranks and generates electrical power to keep this thing going. It's got 600 plus horsepower. It's a full size truck that does 0 to 60 in under 4.5 seconds. This is just exactly what the truck market wants. When you talk to guys in the field, you talk to guys that are, running fleets, that are pulling trailers, they don't want to be restricted by the battery range when they're towing. They don't want to feel like they can't take these things on road trips. And whether or not that is true, whether or not that is a justified feeling, the question that they have and the comments that they make is, why can't somebody make a hybrid? Why can't it be electric when you need it around town to get you going? And then when I do go on a highway, run the gas motor. And this is exactly what we're giving them. Would I prefer all vehicles to be BEVs? Absolutely. I think there's a ton of people who feel that way, and very rightly so. We need to stop burning fossil fuels, but this is what the market is asking for. And with a 90 kilowatt battery, which should be good for, depending on who you talk to, anywhere from 50 to 100 miles of range, driving it as a pure electric. I think what most of these people are going to find is that they can live very well, with a pure electric vehicle. They're going to find that they barely ever use gas, and their next vehicle is going to be a pure electric. And I just think this is great stuff. I think this is, again, what the market asked for. I think this is something that fleets, commercial fleets, are going to be very comfortable giving a try, where they might still hesitate on going into a full electric. And again, we're burning fewer hydrocarbons. We're doing more miles on electricity. I think this is going to be great. And that's just nonsense.
What the highlight here?
Yeah, you highlighted here that so Stellantis is doing this thing. They're playing this game with PR, saying, well, the battery electric range is not limited by just the battery. So then they're twisting that into saying that it has unlimited range. And now they're saying that the vehicle has a range of 690 miles. Well, that's not right. That is with burning the entire tank of gas. It'll go 690 miles. Like, this is very, very, like, very
Chevy
slippery.
Volterra.
Yeah, it's just very slippery PR double speak. It's exactly what you expect from a company whose CEO is really down on EVs anyway. And we've talked about him kind of looking evil anyway.
Yeah, well, I'm very curious to see how it does on the
Good looking
market
truck. I think it's going to do great
compared to the Lightning, the Chevy Silverado EV. It's an interesting, it's another, instead of just doing the same thing as the others, it's a different option on the market. There's nothing like it.
Here's what I'll say. Here's what I'll say to this. When we predict this, when we go on the record, because all this is recorded, right? you and I have an opportunity here because we have seen month after month, Stellantis has defied expectations. They have sold more than we thought they were going to in Europe. And even in 2023, as the market, overall car market shrank, Chrysler increased its market share in 2023 in the US.
Yeah,
Stellantis
that
in
was
the
weird.
US has increased its market share against the rest of the industry. Even when Tesla's market share has gone down, Stellantis has beat expectations. So, based on that, and yes, I understand that past performance is no indicator of future performance. I understand. However, I'm going to take the rather
Technically,
bold
I
step
didn't
of
say anything,
saying
Joe. You're talking to yourself right now.
I am Stellantis. Oh, I'm talking to Freedom EV. He likes to
Oh,
drop that one into the comments. But Stellantis is going to get this one right. Stellantis is going to sell a ton of these, and yeah, I think that this is going to be like how the Ram 1500 was in 1994 when they introduced that big rig styling. This is what the market wants when the market wants it. I think this is going to really put egg on the face of Ford and Chevrolet.
well, I'm definitely a BEV purist, but looking at this and thinking about it, I mean, I would love down the road for some researchers at University of Michigan or something to try to calculate how many emissions were prevented by this vehicle versus the Ford F-150 Lightning or the Hummer EV or the Chevy Silverado EV, because I have a hunch if this ends up being extremely popular and selling a lot of it, and you consider it does have a smaller battery that would be maximized routinely instead of a large battery that might be oversized for most use. I mean, it must be oversized for most use. I would love to see some research down the line that's like, hey, which one ended up preventing the most emissions? And if I was forced to, I might just put my money on this, even though I love the Ford F-150 Lightning. It was our vehicle of the year last year, and I do think it's a tremendous. Of course, you can't look at soft influence, like how much a vehicle changed the market, inspired other EVs, accelerated the transition to EVs. So that's sort of hard, but just on a straight model to model comparison, which I mean it's difficult enough as it is. But yeah, that's good stuff. This is another truck story which you found, of course, because you're a truck guy, love the trucks. No, but this is a really interesting one again because it's a whole different. It's just opening up a whole new market, basically. I mean,
Yeah.
not necessarily globally, but I mean, this is
Oh,
like
for sure, globally. For
even
sure, globally.
globally.
Because here's the thing when you talk about the need for a pickup truck, right? The question inevitably or needs to be, whether or not it is, the question needs to be is what you need payload? Is it the ability to haul 2,000 pounds of stuff? Or is what you need a bed? Is what you need a place to put large, bulky things like plywood and stuff like that? And most of the time, the answer is bed. What we need is bed, right? Now, this vehicle that can be built, according to Toyota, for about 10 grand can serve so many needs in so many markets. But again, this is a cultural thing. Would people, especially in North, let's forget about South America, Central America, Asia, they would be all over this because it meets a need. And those economies are still in the point of meeting a need. They're in that Maslow hierarchy. They're further down on the pyramid of needs. They're fulfilling needs. We have so much in this country that we're out here fulfilling wants, and we're so confused that we actually think what we want is what we need. So do we need a 2,500, 3/4 ton pickup truck crew cab? Or do we need this $10,000 vehicle that can haul just as much back home from the IKEA or the Home Depot or whatever else? This is a cool little vehicle. This is going to be something that if Toyota actually does put it out into production into the rest of the world, these are going to be everywhere.
Yeah, and when I look at these modified versions, I just can't help but think of Jennifer Sensiba. She would love to get her hands on a cheap
Oh,
Toyota truck
yeah.
that she can mod in all different ways, It would be, I think, a lot of
Well,
fun.
that's it. It's just a frame. And once you have the frame, you can put anything back there. You can put an RV, you can put a tow body, utility body, you can put a high pressure pump system back there. You can put water. You can turn this whole thing into a mobile pressure washer. This is great stuff. And maybe even turn it into a little tow vehicle.
Cute little thing. This is just a side note. This is actually a sponsored article, but I love this raffle every year, and I love Climate Exchange. There's a chance to win your dream EV with its 8th annual raffle. Put in a bit of money and hope you get to choose any EV you want. In the past, it's been like a Tesla or a Tesla Rivian. Now you can just, if you win, you choose your EV, and they pay the taxes for you on it. You don't have to worry about winning something big and then having to sell it to pay your taxes. Great stuff.
Yeah, and that's a charity there too, right? That's not just like,
That's a nonprofit. That's
yeah,
just
it's not a gambling thing. It is a gambling thing, but
no,
it's a nonprofit deal. It's supporting a good cause. And again, this is the 8th year. We've
yeah.
supported this every year. We've been a part of it, and it's just a great program.
And
These guys that win it are always super psyched about it.
I forget if any of these, but I think we've had a couple of readers, Clean Technica readers, win Tesla raffles in the past. The first one we ever wrote about, I think, the
I didn't know that.
Illinois Solar Energy one. I didn't know until the next year when we were running the raffle. I was like, oh yeah, I won last year. I'm a reader of Clean Technica reader, and I entered and I won the Tesla. I was like, oh, why was it you, not me?
Oh, see, I go the other way. We should have written about that. That should have been the story.
I think we did mention it several times, but I don't remember if we ever did a full feature. But yeah, good stuff. So put in your money for a chance to win while helping support climate legislation. This is interesting one. Hyundai plans to produce its own LFP batteries by 2024. We talked about LFP batteries recently on shows, but this is I think just interesting, showing that again, automakers are starting to look at vertical integration, and especially of batteries, to to secure their future, I think.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, the ones that are dependent on the automakers that are dependent on their suppliers, as they learned, like we're learning the lessons of COVID, right? Like we had a global supply chain, and when lockdowns started happening and different countries implemented different rules and made transit and made shipping more difficult, the companies that really relied and leveraged those global supply chains found themselves in big trouble, especially the ones that were dependent on just-in-time delivery. So to see companies learning from that and saying we have to take these matters into our own hands, that's really solid stuff. And the company that really did that early and people didn't really understand why they were doing it, not only Tesla but Amazon. And that's one of the reasons that Amazon was able to step up during the pandemic and really kind of become what they have become. They were already enormous and monstrous, but now they're even more so because they had their own airplanes, they had their own airport, they had their own trucking fleet, they had their own warehouse. They didn't rely on third parties and other vendors like FedEx and UPS to do that stuff for them. They leveraged them when they needed to, but they didn't rely on it. And they were able to continue doing business and continue operating when everybody else was effectively kneecapped. So this is great stuff. It's good to see companies learning this, especially Hyundai and Kia. I'm a big fan of the work that they're doing and the designs that they're putting out there. So I'd like to think that they're going to be still doing that great work into the future.
Yeah, and I've actually seen it explained or argued that it's really what made Amazon a success was vertical integration with its servers and cloud infrastructure. Like it was never, it was never the super thin margin online store. It was they built their servers out and they built up Amazon Web Services, and that is what ended up making them huge profits and made them go gazunga on the stock market. And it's really that kind of very ignored kind of infrastructure and vertical integration that made Amazon so big. Well, it's funny, Korea and China do not have the best relationship. And I mean, for a long time, LG Chem, now called LG Energy Solution, was the largest battery maker in the world. You also had Samsung SDI and SK Innovation, two large ones. SK Innovation is now SK On. So you had this very strong battery culture, battery market in Korea, battery companies. And then cattle just came in, the Chinese, which is very like this is a case of like it's legitimately linked to the government. Like it's not working. It's got strong links. It's not just working in a managed capitalistic system. But cattle came in, just grew and grew and grew, and has become by far the largest battery producer in the world, and driving down costs the way it does. And I don't know, it's interesting to me that Hyundai didn't just lean more on LG Energy Solution and Samsung and SK On, and that they're like, we're gonna try to be more competitive by doing it ourselves more. But in any case, there's a long and complicated history there between Korea and China, and this just continues that.
Yeah,
But there were
exactly. I mean,
there were
there's
cases,
no more to add. That's great stuff.
yeah, there's more, and like yeah, there's other policy stuff and whatnot from a few years back where companies were sort of forced to stop using LG Energy Solution and use Chinese batteries, but to be on the Chinese market, which, as we said, 60% of the global EV market. So it's kind of it's a complicated deal there. This is there's not much here. I think we've even mentioned this already. GM is, or I'm not sure if we did, but GM is halting production of the Cruise Origin for now. It's not killing the project, but it's halting production for now as Cruise figures out what it's doing after the incidents in California have suspended operations.
Yeah, I have nothing to add to this. I mean, obviously they're going to stop manufacturing this thing until they get themselves sorted out. It just seems like the more news that is published about not only Cruise, but Cruise, Waymo, Tesla's full self-driving, all of it, it just seems bad. And the thing is, this stuff is coming and it's going to be great. It's like a lot of technology, right? Like this technology, this self-driving autonomous stuff is going to be great, but it's not going to be great tomorrow. It's going to be great in a bit. And it may be faster than I think. It may be slower than I think, but I think it's going to be probably 5 or 6 more years before any of this is really ready. And there's a lot of money and a lot of investment and a lot of hype, and a lot of people have staked their personal public reputations on this works now. This is a real thing now. And there's a lot of investment to push this through, but we're starting to see that, like, man, some of the stuff just isn't ready, and some of the stuff is getting rushed out into the road. And the fact is that I did not sign up to be a part of this beta program. I did not accept the idea of sharing the road with autonomous semi trucks like in California and Texas, or robotaxis that are 4,000-pound vehicles that can accelerate from 0 to 60 in under 6 seconds. Like, we are all a part of this grand experiment being undertaken by all these companies. We're not being compensated for it. We're being put at risk for it. And I'm not a huge fan of the way that it's going. And this article here, this was on Jalopnik today, that Cruise apparently knew that its robo-taxis had struggled to detect children, but still kept them on the road. I really find that unforgivable. I don't know, like, which sweaty gamer nerd is sitting there going, well, let's put it out there anyway, because we don't want to affect the stock price. And if 2 or 3 children have to die, so be it. Like, if this turns out to be true, this is really unforgivable.
I just can't believe they used children to test these. Like, that's just horrible. It's like, seems inhumane.
I mean,
but
but
yeah,
there was a bunch of guys. There was like, and let's talk about the hype thing for a minute, and the way that a number of these people on the internet identify and tie their personal identity to a brand marketing. There was a controversy a couple years back where a Tesla on autopilot hit a child-like dummy, like a child size, cardboard dummy that they ran out in front of it. And there were people all over the internet talking about, we can do this test. I have so much faith in this. I'll use my own kid to try this out. And like, Don't do that, guys. Like, it's really like
There's
Elon doesn't love you back. It's really not worth this kind of level of devotion.
there's faith, and then there's something else other than another kind of faith.
There's another kind of faith, right?
I,
And that should be the title of this episode. Another kind of faith.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, this
That'll
is
be the
tough.
subtitle. Enyaq attack, and then another kind of faith.
I mean, I remember discussions a decade ago at conferences, presentations, where it's like it's hard. You know, it's not perfect. Nothing is perfect.
Right.
Like, you know, it can't be perfect.
EV obsession is pretty close.
Yeah, for sure, definitely.
Pretty close.
But you know, it's like you start making arguments about statistics and numbers, like, oh, it'll save 100 lives for every one that it gets rid of. It's like, and it's just a kind of case like, if we're at the point where it's saving 10 lives for every one that it costs, it's like it's a horrible situation. Like, I'm glad I'm never in those situations where I have to like make decisions, because I'm like, well, I don't want to approve something that is one day going to kill a kid on the side, walking off the sidewalk. But obviously I want something that's going to save lives and net. And it's just like, it's, I don't know.
But
not
this
knowing
is
the
like the
details of
Batman
this.
argument. This is the Batman argument. Are you familiar with this? This is like an
Well,
ethical, this is like a more modern ethical problem that we talk about in
Batman,
like,
Punisher.
no. This is real. This is real. So you do the math and you say, how many lives has Batman saved, right? Whatever that is. Batman has saved however many lives. So that's X. Then how many lives did the guy who killed Batman's parents save? And the answer is X minus 2.
I didn't know
So
that.
like,
I didn't
yeah,
know
so
that one.
that's kind of where we're at with this. How many
Yeah.
lives are we saving? Well, we're saving X number of lives. How many are we taking? X minus this. And as long as that's positive, and I could see that. I could see them making that case. But if it's my kid underneath the cruise, I'm not going
Yeah.
to see it that way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one, it just like, I don't envy people in these situations. I don't know enough about what happened here in the discussion, but I know if it's like, if it's that kind of case, and then someone leaks out, oh yeah, look, in the testing it killed this dummy
Killed
kid.
the toddler, right?
And it's like that should, like, I don't know. I just I'm not a fan
In
of it.
testing the autonomous GMC Hummer, it kept running over this bus full of orphans. We don't
Yeah,
know
we
why
can
it did that. It has a real problem with orphans.
couldn't figure out how to get it to not kill kids with last name Boras.
Right, exactly.
Just had a mind of his own when it saw any Joe Boras offspring.
Yeah. Well, no, I think the new Tesla update actually does that. So we're gonna get rid of this guy one way or another.
This is horrible.
It's
Okay.
real life though.
We have a fun story. US Steel is the first to use certain kind of battery powered locomotives in North America, trying to green up its operations out of Pittsburgh there. And yeah, it's going to start using some electric trains. So figured that fits in the EV obsession.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think it's so funny because we talk about range extended hybrids, and I think a lot of people don't realize that diesel electric locomotives have been around for almost 100 years now. That they've used giant batteries with a giant diesel effectively running as a generator to power the electric motors because they have such superior torque characteristics. And now that this technology has sort of come full circle and we're trying to apply it everywhere, it becomes very easy for the locomotive industry that has always thrived on efficiency to to find ways to reduce their output. And I think it's just fantastic the work that they're doing, and that is in no way to take away from what they've accomplished here. They're removing, again, 40,000 gallons fuel reduction per engine per year. That's a huge amount of particulate matter that's not going out into the atmosphere. So this is a great thing. But I just think the train industry, the shipping industry, is so much further ahead than most people realize, that to see them get some good publicity out of this, I think that's great stuff. So good for them.
Yeah, I'm still, yeah. Well, anyway, as you said, there's been diesel electric trains for a long time, for ages. But yeah, just great to see US Steel also just trying to do something. It needs to also produce green steel, but that's a different discussion for a different show. And that's it. Oh, there's a look at our nice little Clean Technica YouTube page and all the fun videos we've been doing lately. Look at this, Joe.
We're doing great work. Leave Regina alone. That was the best one.
The car credit crisis. And the last one might be the best still. The Ford.
No, Enyaq attack, the one we're gonna do today. The Toyota conspiracy with the tin hat, the tinfoil hat. Yeah, so good.
I thought you might bring in Batman, the Batman of debate or something.
I really, so the Halloween one, I don't know if you have the image that I wanted to use for the Halloween one that you can share.
Yeah. Well, I had it for a day, but after Halloween, I decided to switch it to the Cruise wants you to trust its bots, which I like that one more. The other one was very Halloween look, so I had it there for Halloween.
All right. We'll have more tomorrow, guys. Thanks for tuning in to EV Obsession, and we'll see you.
Salute.
Hi, my name is Scott Cooney. I started Clean Technica to promote clean energy and other sustainable alternatives, and for 13 years, we've been moving markets. If we had a nickel for every time someone told us they bought their first EV, solar, e-bike, or fill in the blank clean energy solution, we'd be a cable TV channel by now. But we don't get those nickels. So unfortunately, we could use your help to reach a few more people. If just 1% of our audience chipped in a few bucks a month, we could hire dozens of great journalists and promote all sorts of climate solutions. It's easy. Just go to cleantechnica.com/support and sign up with a credit card in seconds. Cancel anytime. But we'll be sending out some cool perks too, so I think you'll want to stick around. With your support, we'll keep leading the charge. Thank you so much.